Hey, everybody. Welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky, and joining me for this episode is Amanda. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Becky.
And Leah. Hey, Leah.
Hi.
And Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
Hey, Becky.
And Heather. Hey, Heather.
Hello.
Michael says I'm making his life more difficult because there are now five of us.
You're
Oh.
welcome, Michael.
I know, right?
Sorry, Mike.
We gotta keep you on your toes, Mike Burrier.
But we all needed to do this to talk about this book, though, don't you think?
Yeah.
I agree.
We all needed to be here to talk about this one in particular.
Mhm.
Yes.
So this is the first one of July. You can find the list of all the books we're reading for July and now for August available on our website. But for this book club style discussion, we're diving in to discuss When I Had You by S.L. Scott. Okay, of us sitting here, how many of us was this our first S.L. Scott book?
Me.
Oh, awesome.
All of us.
It's all of us. So she is
That's
a
impressive.
new to us author. It doesn't happen very often that at least one of us hasn't
Mhm.
read
It
something,
doesn't. Mark this down in the record books.
right?
No kidding.
Take notes. Okay, so who has their doc open? Does anybody have their
I
doc?
do.
I do.
I can read
Heather,
it.
well,
I
let Heather.
actually-
You got to do it all the time. Let Heather do it now.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Heather, tell us all the things we need to know about this book.
Okay. First, the release date was May 1st, 2024. The tropes are sports romance, race car, single dad, forbidden, like boss employee, close proximity, grumpy sunshine. Anything else?
Now, I guess it's billionaire romance because she
Well, it's
technically
kind of
is a
well, it's
billionaire.
hidden too because like nobody knows that they're dating
Like
for
secret relationship kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Okay.
because they were outed, but then like as they were seeing each other, nobody knew about it.
Right.
And it's not
it
really
is
a Hollywood norm because they're both famous.
Right.
Yeah.
So famous.
Yeah, like kind of Hollywood or celebrity.
Celebrity.
Like,
There you
they're
go.
celebrity in their own rights, right?
Yeah. Okay, keep going, Heather.
It's a standalone. It is dual first person. Put out percentage or pop is 48. I had 50, so that's okay. 48, between 48 and 50, same difference, right?
Yeah.
The audiobook narrators were CJ Bloom and Sebastian York.
Did you do the audio, Heather?
Yes.
Same. And it didn't need sped up. This is the first audio that I've done for Sip and Discuss that I didn't have to like speed it up. This was like music.
I like their voices together. Like they
They-
blend very well together.
I would agree. They do a really great job together. Third act breakup, yes. It is available on Kindle Unlimited and Audible.
Okay, so we said the audiobook was Sebastian York and CJ Bloom, and real quick, the performance on this one was phenomenal. This is the first audiobook I've listened to in a little bit that there weren't audio quality issues, like there weren't change in volumes, there weren't any missteps, or I couldn't hear any clicking or anything. It was a very well done audiobook.
I would agree.
And plus it was the unicorn,
Mhm.
Sebastian York.
I really
I
like
mean,
CJ Bloom too. Like
I
personally.
agree.
I didn't listen to the audiobook, but like I really enjoy listening to her.
They do a really great job together.
So we recently learned, and this is very interesting, that narrator Sebastian York does not narrate anyone under the age of 30. If the character is supposed to be under 30, he is not comfortable narrating them anymore because obviously he's a little bit older. He's been around a minute. And that made me realize that Cash is like over 30.
Yeah, he's
what did he
35.
say? 35?
36. 35. Okay. Yeah, she's 26.
She's 26.
Oh, yeah. So age gap, we left age gap off the list of
Oh,
tropes.
yeah, that's true.
Well,
I'll put it on there.
he
It
lacks
didn't
maturity.
feel like an age gap. Though.
Yeah, it's not important to the story for them.
No.
And it didn't feel icky.
No.
No.
Well, but it didn't even feel like, honestly, like maturity wise, like they were in the same level. Like I didn't feel like there was any differential to like the fact that there was an age difference. Like
Yeah.
sometimes like 10 years can seem like a lot, but also since they were like older, it didn't feel
Yeah.
age gappy.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's start with first our hero, Cash Ryatt. Um, he is dubbed the bad boy of racing, so he's now he got fired from his past car company that he raced for. The Westcotts have rehired him or have
They're a
hired
new
him
team.
for their
right?
team. Yeah, to lead their team. And he is like trying to reform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he
Well,
was like a really
that
big
makes sense.
hothead. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Kind of-
think he's just trying to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Well, and like he talks about his past, like how when he was with his ex, like they drank a lot, they smoked a lot, like he like partied a lot and was like the news was fairly negative, and so like he doesn't want that persona to be like what people see anymore, and he actually hasn't been like that in the past few years, but it's like he's so stuck with that name that he really is trying to like turn the tables for like his persona.
Yeah. Okay, so he's a race car driver. Here is a point of contention, and I have to be very honest. You know, we often talk about sports romance, and if the sport in the romance is correct,
Mm-hmm.
I am not a fan of racing. Like, I don't know much. Like, I know more about hockey than I do about racing.
Which is not saying a lot.
That's not really
I
saying a
know
lot.
more about football than I know about racing, and I think we all know
I
how
know
much.
everything about, well, stock car racing, but I know
Which is
quite a
very
bit.
different than what like the type of racing he is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's very vague
Okay.
in her details.
But we did some research.
We do not know what kind of racing this actually is because they refer to it as P1 racing. We did some searching. I found out that P1 racing is actually Principle 1 racing. It refers to a team management style and role within Formula 1 racing, but not a specific type of racing. F1 team principals are responsible for overseeing operation strategy and performance of their respective teams. But if you just Google what does
P1
P1
racing.
mean in racing, it tells you that's pole position.
Yep.
But Leah,
Yes.
But I Googled P1 racing and it's boats.
Oh,
It's like a
yes.
new type, like new style that
Hey,
is
I mean,
coming
people
forth.
race
It's boats. So there's
Yeah,
some
and
crazy, but
contention and confusion about,
Well, yeah, I think she just calls it something else so she didn't have to get the details exactly right.
which is fine.
Yeah.
right,
I think
because
that's
like,
it.
yeah, they're like when they talk about the car, it's just worth millions of dollars.
Mhm.
It's like there's no like talk about like
But-
whether it's open wheel or stock car.
Yeah, there wasn't
or-
specifics, but I will say
yeah.
when she talked about the training, like how they're not allowed to train in the car, that is true. They do actually train on simulators more often than they do in a car, especially Formula One drivers. Because I did Google that one too. Because I was curious.
Also like how, I mean, he's sort of treated, because I mean, he's an athlete in a sense, right?
Mhm.
So I really like how he was sort of treated like an athlete, like, you know, his meal plan, his exercise, like all the, like his
It's-
regimen.
Well,
I
that
mean,
is actually reality.
Yeah, it's hardcore because they
for sure.
get some G-forces. They're not like driving around with AC cranked up. Like,
They're in huge fire suits.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Every bit
driving
of
at
weight
200
matters.
miles an hour.
Yeah, the weight,
Yeah.
like the weighing and like that, all that stuff, like that's so she did get some right, but some maybe not, or maybe it's just us. So-
well, and so there's some other little pieces of it. Like Formula 1 is actually raced in Austin, Texas, not Dallas. We don't know the type of racing. We don't know exactly what P1 is referring to. It could be MLP1, which is the endurance styled racing of open wheeled, I believe. So, not open wheel. I don't know. I know
think
nothing.
she was just trying to make it in a race world and make it as, you know, like.
But
And
this
it
isn't the
worked.
first book in her race world because so each of
The
these
brothers
books
all
is
have books,
standalone,
yeah.
but she writes in a world because the brothers that are coupled, I think there's 2 brothers that are a couple now.
No,
All
4.
3.
All
No,
four
all
or
four
three,
have-
three,
yeah.
three. Yeah.
There's only
sorry.
3 brothers, but all 3
Four
of them are
siblings.
like have relationships.
So there's
and their
another
books are done.
book. So there are those other books that take place in this world.
Oh,
So
Yes.
I think it's a little odd that she's not really clear on the racing. If you're going to,
But they're owners, though. They're not drivers.
Yeah,
So-
Right.
so it would
So-
be a different aspect. And like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I give it to her because then you can do whatever you want. Like they
Yep.
can go,
totally.
yeah, they can go have a race in Antarctica. Like,
I mean, he
Who's
does
to say?
travel to like places that they do have
well,
like
that's,
F1
I mean,
races too.
yeah,
So
Formula One goes all over the place.
yeah. So I mean, there's you have to kind of take it with a open mind a little bit.
So I think there's 4 books total
Yeah.
in this Westcott like racing series.
Yeah. The
And all the
one-
covers look very similar.
Stacy says, I know the one is a lawyer,
Oh,
technically.
yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
that's.
But he's
Locke.
like yeah.
yeah.
Locked.
I did like their names though, and how they're all
Me
like
too.
maritime names.
They're all, yeah. So our heroine's name, she is Marina Westcott.
Except for
Um,
Noah, poor Noah.
Noah, he doesn't have a water name. It's a stretch.
It's yeah.
It's a stretch.
And I liked in the little bit of the epilogue in the end where she's like needling at him about it.
Oh,
What
but
they're going to
also-
name their baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like though, like where she's like Noah, like it fits him. Like had he had a maritime name, it probably wouldn't have fit him as well. I am like intrigued by the brothers and the relationships that like with the sister-in-laws that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Same.
they seem very like intense in their love.
I will say this was a very character driven romance. And I did
Mhm.
like that because I do think that we definitely got Cash's emotions. I wanted more emotions from Marina.
Yeah.
I felt like there were times that I would have liked some introspect from her or a conversation more heart to heart with Poppy, the best friend.
hmm
I would.
But we are getting a Poppy book, so.
Yeah, that's the next book. It comes out next month.
Really?
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Heather's like, tell me more.
I'm on.
And he's the guy, I think it's with the guy that she meets.
the
like
rock star.
right?
The rock
Yeah,
star.
that's going to be a rock
But-
star.
But it's amnesia too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I saw
Which I'm
that.
always intrigued by an amnesia book because you never like it's hard to do well.
It is hard.
And so like I've read a couple and I'm like, oh man, this one did not work. But I've read a couple where I'm like, ooh, I really like the way they did this here.
I do think Marina was a very smart character. Like,
Mhm.
I liked her. I didn't have any moments where I'm like, oh God, she's a little too stupid to live. However, because I started the book first, which is what typically happens around here. And I actually had a moment of panic after I read the first 2 chapters.
Mhm.
I was like, this dude's an asshole. Jenni and Amanda are not going to like this. Like, I felt
no,
like
I
you
like an
needed
asshole.
content, trigger warnings for Cash alone because I'm like, oh, he's an ass. And I'm,
But she's like, Leah, you're gonna love him.
yeah. I mean, Leah got the text of, oh my God, you're going to love him. He's your kind of hero. But
I got the warning text.
But I will say, like, Cash's assholeness, it was all situational. Like, I think with him, like, he's just been in this bubble almost where people like want something from him, and he's been burned so bad that he doesn't want to people anymore. And he wants to just protect those who are like who he cares about. And so it's like he just plays the asshole card.
I was busy with my highlighting tool in the old Kindle, and I just feel like this really needs to be read out loud. I'm the bad boy every good girl wants to take for a spin. I have money, looks, and I don't have their parents' approval. I'm a wet dream for every goody two-shoes. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what an arrogant jerk.
Yeah, he does not lack for ego.
that was
He
in my
does
notes.
not.
Arrogance,
Well, and-
arrogance, arrogance.
But also the fact, like, when they meet, like he has never met her. Like her family owns the
Yeah.
racing like company. She's on her phone. He basically body checks her because she's not looking at him. And he's pissed off because his
Yeah.
like ego is showing and gets dinged that how dare this woman be in here and not pay attention to me.
Well, and he
But
breaks
oh,
her phone.
he breaks her phone, but
And it
she
comes
like
back to bite him
Yeah.
aggressively, which is amazing.
but she lets loose. And then when the
Yeah.
brother walks in, he's like, "Oh, have you met our sister?" And he's like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah.
She's an owner. Yeah.
It's like, Karma's a bitch, dude.
Um, I do have to say that like Marina, while I think she lacked depth, she wasn't too stupid to live, and she made some smart choices.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes.
you know, and she didn't let Cash get away with things either, right? Like
Right.
that first
Yeah.
dinner where he shows up and sits down next to her, she's just like slinging it at him.
Mm-hmm. I think part of that though is she's sheltered in a sense where her brothers were like always protecting her. And so like now that she is out like on her own and has to stand on her own 2 feet without them hovering, like she has really grown a backbone for herself. Like she doesn't use it so much with her family until like farther into the story, but like she has no like qualms like defending herself and like like knowing like this is my worth, like this is like who I am. And I'm glad that by the end of the book like she was capable of standing up to her brothers as well,
Yeah.
because you don't always get that.
I do think that this would have been a better story for her if we hadn't had the boyfriend sleeping with the
Costume
costumer.
designer. Yeah.
It wasn't needed. Like they could have been paparazzi fodder just for the fact that she's a starlet and an owner and they're
Mhm.
caught and seen together. Like, because the agent piece, the fact that she finally did stand up to the brothers, but she didn't stand up to that agent and demand she show up. And then,
Well,
you
until
know,
she fired her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was
Well-
just yeah, it was a
It was
quick
very
like
like anticlimactic.
but I
yes.
just think if we had taken out that the boyfriend or co-star piece, I think I actually probably would have liked her better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think too there was because they bill it as an enemies to lovers on Amazon. And it just like I felt like they were trying the author, I felt like it was like almost like a forced enemies to lovers, but they
Yeah.
weren't. So I felt like some of the back and forth was just
This
wasn't needed.
The switch
It just
on
the
enemies to lovers here
meanness.
just switched off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
chapter 3, they are not enemies anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I would just like I would call that banter, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
all have those people in our lives that we talk to like that. At
Yeah.
least I do. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm the asshole.
We
I
all
don't know.
have
I got
our
like
own
6 of
asshole.
you right there. I mean, I am the
Yeah, well,
asshole, so.
And I think that that's the thing. Like they just have like this natural like competitive edge with each other, almost like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it.
Yeah.
Stacey says annoyance to lovers is what it felt like to her.
That's a better way to put it. I don't like enemies to lovers, so it never even really not until I read
Unless
that
it's
was I like,
mafia,
oh,
then she likes enemies to lovers.
Well, that's
Correct.
different.
gosh,
It's just
there's
like,
a real big
that's like
asshole.
PNR. It's different when it's
Kill you.
PNR.
I
doesn't
can't
even
let that go,
count.
Heather.
It
Doesn't
doesn't
even count.
Okay, so, and we've talked about Cash. He was so arrogant and such a jerk. And before we started, I brought up a thought, and I'm curious what all of you think, including those in the chat or those listening. I'd love to hear your feedback. I think that it was imperative in this story that Cash be a single dad, that we get to see his softer side, his humanity with his little guy, Ryan, versus what?
Cullen.
Cullen?
It was Cullen.
Yeah.
His last name
Mhm.
is. She called
Right.
him Ryan because she got his like
Oh.
purposely called him something wrong. So
Cullen.
it's Cullen.
Okay, sorry.
No,
I
it's okay.
I don't know. I wrote down Ryan.
I mean,
Cullen.
it is said.
Cullen.
but
I did
anyway.
also write down Turpity, which I do not like that
Oh.
name, and it was
Oh
the
my God, it's
perfect name for her.
horrible.
I always Google names I can't pronounce and I'm like, Google doesn't even recognize this. What the heck?
That's
think she did the same
audiobook. The audiobook saved me. It's the only reason I can say it.
Thank you.
Turpity.
We were supposed to hate her. That's why she has a terrible name.
It is a really
Well,
horrible
and
name.
her-
But we
You
don't hate her
at
by
the
the
end.
end.
But don't you think her evolution was kind of quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Therapy don't work like that.
Like 1 week, 2 weeks in
Yeah.
Spain for a model shoot and a couple of phone calls to a therapist, and all of a sudden you don't hate your ex
You're not a selfish hag anymore.
and you stop drinking, and she just stopped drinking.
I mean, maybe it was the alcohol.
Maybe it
Maybe
was
it
the
was the
alcohol.
I will say that's the thing with this book that I didn't really care for is she built up this like idea of the character and then it was like a downward slope. It's like you hit the top on the ski lift and then you just went down. It's like there was the build up, but then you were let down with like the way that the characters grew.
Okay, so
Or
back
just
to
with the quickness.
yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I think lots of things with this book were very quick.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I will also say, and I was going to bring this up in a little bit, but I'll say it now. This writing style was a little jarring.
Well, there's no transitions.
Yeah.
Like there was no natural.
So I told Leah right off, I said, listen, 1 minute they're in the car and the next minute they're in the living room. I don't know how they got out of the car. And she's like, well, it's because you're listening to the
No,
audiobook.
I asked you if you
Maybe
were
there's a
doing the
space in the
audio.
book. And I'm like, I don't think so.
But there's not. Like
There's
there's no break in the ebook. Well, because sometimes in audio, those like
Right,
breaks in the
right.
chapters don't translate. So I asked you if you're doing the audio, and that's why I was like, oh, maybe that was the problem. But it was not because no joke, like they like were basically gonna bang out, but then they ended up sleeping together, and then she's having lunch with Poppy in the next
Well,
sentence. I was like, what the
In
fuck
across the
happened?
country, like in Vancouver, from
Yeah.
Miami to Vancouver. Like,
Yeah.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
they went up in the elevator and then they're like suddenly in his room and I didn't even know whose room they were in because
yes.
he's
And
just
all
on
I
a
needed
balcony.
was-
Is there a
all I
balcony in the
needed was-
elevator?
Was a transition item, like a little dot in
Well,
between.
but even to say like a couple words in front of the line, like, I'm
Next
out
last
of the
week or-
car.
And then
I'm
Yeah.
out of the car and in the house, finally sitting in the living room. Like, I don't know, but I was like, I had to stop it and then look at my Kindle and be like, did I wait, I missed
Well,
things.
I read a couple
I
like
missed
parts like
it too.
2 or 3 times. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, that's what I
well,
did.
okay
And
then.
I think it's a little more jarring because it's not every transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes it goes really smoothly and then all of a sudden you jump.
Yeah,
So
it
you're
wasn't
not
like the transition
Yeah, it's not
chaos was not
consistent.
consistent.
I think the biggest one was when Poppy was like, hey, like basically, hey, bitch, get in the car. And then we realized she's in Vancouver and not in Miami, which
Right.
they're far apart.
which supposedly she got there in 3 hours because she left at 6 in the morning and then she calls him and he misses the call at 9:15. I was like, that does not happen.
It's a
No,
super
not
fast
when you
plane.
go that way.
Yeah.
I don't-
Isn't Vancouver?
Yeah,
West.
it's yeah.
There's a lot longer
Completely.
flight than that.
Amber's
Yeah.
right. It does make you feel like you missed a page or a couple paragraphs, and it you're kind of especially jarring in the audio. Like in the audio,
I
you're
bet.
kind of like, did I miss? What did I miss? Wait, stop.
Yeah.
And then it's still happening. Sue said she thinks was it kind of taken out for editing, and I do not think so.
don't
I
think so
venture to
either.
guess this author might not actually use an editor. Because there were a couple moments, because I was like,
I
huh.
don't know. Let's look.
Like the lack of, definition on what kind of racing. Like,
Yeah.
there were just a couple things that if you're using, a dev editor or even a really quality beta reader, they would have come back and said, hey, I need more understanding or more definition on.
There's a beta reader, a copy editor, a proofreader,
Okay.
a content editor.
Really?
All those things.
And they just kind of let that go. Well, I mean, you can make all the suggestions you want, and sometimes authors just choose not to take
Yeah.
them.
This is also true. But
Okay, how did you think about Ryan? He was age 5.
who?
Colin.
Colin. I'm gonna change
I
it.
think he was
He's
age
changed his name.
appropriate.
Mhm.
Do you think
I
he was
do.
age appropriate?
I do.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So she gets
Definitely.
points for that. Do you think that Cash's turn with how he was, like this enemies to lovers, like he was really kind of jerky and arrogant to her. And the next thing we know, he's making big, grand, sweeping, swoony gestures, coming to the club to get her out. He shows up at the red carpet. He shows up at her apartment in Vancouver. Like, do you feel that those were quick in his transition, his character arc? Or did it make sense the way it was plotted and paced out?
I think it was hard to tell how much they were communicating. So I feel like how much time they're on the phone every night and they're talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
How much are they talking to each? Does that make sense? Like how
Yeah.
many is
Like how
the
long
What
are
time
the
are
span?
conversations?
yeah, and what are they talking about? Like
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like we
Yeah.
miss a lot of like the nuances of how their relationship is progressing. But I think with when you see him with Cullen and how he treats Cullen and how he treats his mom, those like big moments aren't surprising because he really goes all out for the people he cares for. So I think if we had gotten more of like the text conversations, like between the two of them, like even like a couple like chapter beginnings, like just text conversations that like where it wasn't like bantery or it wasn't like silly stuff, like it would have seemed more not out of character.
Because I was not completely sold on their HEA.
Yeah.
But
It
I
makes sense though,
think
I
this
think at the
comes
same
down
time.
to the third act breakup. I felt like the
That's fair.
conflict, I like a third act breakup. I want the emotions. This felt forced. Like she had to do something.
I don't think the breakup felt forced, but I think the way they came back together was not enough for me.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I
dude
agree.
should have like apologized. Like he fucked up and like she's the one who like had to text him back. Like, yes, he texted her and she ignored it, but like he should have made the effort to like go see her.
More grand
And
gestures. Like just
Yeah.
showing up at
Yeah.
her play wasn't grand enough.
no,
Or
and it's like
running down
sending
the
her.
street, like,
Yeah,
dude.
that was like, could that happen in Manhattan though,
Okay, it
even?
could, but it had cringy Nora Ephron 90s rom-com
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah.
Like, as like I'm picturing this, like especially like at the time of day this supposedly happened, I didn't see it actually happening.
Yeah, like I said, it had that cringe. I like Nora Ephron movies. I like those 80s, 90s rom-coms.
I mean, who doesn't?
But this just felt cringy. Like,
Yeah, I didn't feel like she should have been the one like that reached out after the breakup. Like, yes, he texted and she ignored it, but I still think he should have been the one that bridged that gap because he was an asshole in that moment, which you understood it, but at the same time, like it was frustrating.
um, Amanda, did you have problems with the third act breakup? I know you're not a huge fan of them.
I didn't mind their breakup so much because I mean, I can see after, he was in the accident and, he's trying to also the fact, that she's a team owner and that if he tells her what's really going on, that he might lose his spot. So
Mhm.
that felt real and accurate to me. And I could understand why he was being the way he was being and, why she just wasn't going to put up with it. She's at this point in her character evolution that she's just tired of putting up with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I didn't buy the way they got back together. Like you said, it just felt lackluster.
Mhm.
Well, and I think that we could have had, I think that fire, the catastrophe of that crash was enough of a dramatic moment.
Yeah.
I don't know that we needed them to be separate.
Well, but even if they separated, like, and she left, but like came back the next day or something like that, because like, I mean, in those moments, like you're gonna be emotionally distraught, like as you're dealing with like healing and being hovered over. I thought the timeline of the breakup was too much. It should have been just like a fight or something like that.
The fact that it was like
Well,
weeks.
he recovered really damn
Oh,
quick.
He was like the next week, right? The next week he was
Right?
racing.
Like,
Yeah,
that
and it's
is-
like if
that
you
is
have
not how
supposed
birds work.
nerve damage, you would not be allowed to be getting back in your car.
Well, I
You
mean, it
wouldn't,
is a
like-
book. It's not
Yeah.
like real,
Yes,
right?
but still. But still.
What
Yeah, I
about
think
you?
it just felt like everything else. It just felt very quick. Like the
Yes.
pacing was just like
Yes.
everything was happening kind of quick.
I will say the pacing of this book was quick. The reading of this book,
Mhm.
even listening to it on regular speed, was fast. And I really didn't have any issues with that. I like that the story was enough of a story, even with the transitions, the writings, and an asshole. The pacing of this book moved really quick, and I listened to it in a day. Like, and
Yeah.
it's usually taking me 2 to 3 days to get through a book right now. Like, I got through this one, no problem.
hmm
Heather, what were your thoughts on the third act breakup? Because I know that you aren't necessarily a huge fan of them either.
I'm not a huge fan. I did not get past the breakup because my family interrupted my reading today, which is
Oh,
Oh,
very annoying.
Those
So
assholes.
one was gone and was supposed to be out of town and then decided to just come home and not tell anyone.
oh, good times.
Whatever. So I'm interested to read how to finish because I'm almost to the end. I'm interested to figure out because I don't like a third breakup.
Yeah.
Like I don't like drama just for drama. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Update us.
Update us. Let us
yeah.
all know.
I'll text you guys.
Okay, so another question that I have real quick is I read the epilogue. And again, we talked about Turbidy's, her quick change over to being, I don't hate you. You're a great step person in my child's life.
Yeah.
Okay, but I read the epilogue. Thoughts on the epilogue? First of all, how pregnant are you that all of a sudden your wedding dress doesn't fit? That you didn't know weeks before? That you weren't like, oh, I'm really freaking bloated. I should see a seamstress. Like,
Well,
who doesn't try their wedding dress on at least the week of the wedding to make sure there's nothing major? Like, maybe you need extra boob tape or something.
yeah, it didn't seem realistic. Because your boobs do not grow that fast, that early.
I don't know. So
Okay, but did you at least try your wedding? Did you wait till the day of your wedding to put your wedding dress on after you had it at final fitting?
no,
I
I
remember.
I think
I mean, it's been a minute.
I don't know if I did it the week of. I mean, yeah, I think it was. It was close.
I
I
can't
tried it
remember.
on like the week of, and it was too long, and I was flipping out because it was too long.
I do know the second time around, that's the only reason I knew I was pregnant was my boobs.
But that
I
was the
like,
second time. The first time, it is
Right.
not like that. These kids were
well,
sore the first time around.
I didn't notice the first time around. Other people did.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it depends on I took it as her stomach, not because it was like
I
a
did
corset
too.
type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't just pop.
I
I
did
mean,
like
it
his
does,
little
but you have
laugh.
to be like
But
way
it
later.
there would have she
Like,
would have
dude, I was puking 3 times a day. Nothing was growing.
I did like his line about he wasn't prepared for that night to have to undo all those buttons.
Oh yeah.
I-
And then
that
I do
li-
like how he laced it up with his
Yeah.
racing
Yeah.
shoelace
Yes.
or sash or whatever
Stacey
it was. That was
agrees.
cute.
She likes the ribbon being the racing laces.
Okay, so is there anything else about When I Had You by S.L. Scott you guys want to talk about?
I did like the mom in
His
this one.
mom.
Like
Mhm.
his mom.
I agree. I really liked her too.
Like
And I
she was
actually
a really
liked
good
her
character.
parents, her mom.
I did too. Yes, her
Yeah.
parents, and that was one thing too. Like he didn't have his dad was not in the picture, but like his mom, yes, she struggled because she was a single mom, but she was good. Like her family was good. Like we didn't have the ex.
or somebody
Honestly,
doesn't
the
have,
ex wasn't even that bad. She was just kind of selfish. So that was one thing too. There was no horribly bad relationship trauma in this, which I liked. Especially because sometimes with the single parent or even really any romance, the chances of both sides having good parents is rare.
Yeah.
orphan syndrome. Like usually
Mhm.
somebody has
Somebody's
dead
been
parents.
Disneyed.
Yeah.
Somebody's been Disneyed.
I
Um,
do like how she made us really want the brothers books. Like that's
yeah, to go
Right.
back
I
and
want to
read
go
them.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Poppy. Like I'm there
Mhm.
for that.
I
And
did
I don't like a rock
love the
star.
one sister-in-law that was like, "Well, you're coming home a little early in last night's clothes." Like that
Yeah.
totally calls her out.
I really
and you
liked all
better
the
do a better job of
sister-in-laws.
sneaking around or
Yeah.
whatever. That was
I
Well,
was
I
like,
really
even like the
liked her.
sister-in-laws, like when they were in the pool and they were talking about it, and they're like, "Well, maybe you were wrong too."
Yeah.
okay, so here we go. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Jenny, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Oh.
Okay, we'll go to you.
Oh, thumbs up.
Heather, thumbs
I
up,
would
thumbs
definitely
down.
try it again.
Thumbs
Yeah,
up,
I
thumbs down.
liked it.
Amanda, thumbs up, thumbs down.
I would say thumbs up. Yeah.
Leah, thumbs up, thumbs
I'd
down.
give it a thumbs up, like not like a high thumbs
Yeah.
up, but I would definitely read her again to give her another.
I'm thumb sideways, like I'm not up or down. Like I'm just like it was good.
I'm tilting to the top though.
Yeah,
It-
you're like
It was okay. The pacing worked for me. It was
Mhm.
quick. I will say it wasn't
It wasn't as good as I was expecting based on what we've like heard
except
about
it
it.
was better than the ones that we have been reading that are all vibes. Like at least this
Yeah.
one had
There weren't vibes, yeah.
some context and content that you could some emotion that we could latch onto, and I think really it
Mhm.
basically because it's had a third act breakup. Had it not had a third act breakup, I probably would have been like, I'm done. But will you go back and read S.L. Scott? Just and everyone think I would
Yeah,
I
give
will
her
probably
another
give her
try.
one more try
Yeah.
to see if, because I'm not thrilled at like the way the transitions and all that stuff worked, and it was so I didn't love her writing style in that sense, but like the verbiage itself was pretty strong and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Amanda, you tried again?
Yeah, and I think mainly because it was such a quick read that I would go back and read The Brothers, or I would read Poppy because I feel like I could get through it really quick and figure
Yeah.
out whether or not it was for me.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Okay. If people liked When I Had You, what other books would you recommend for them to try? So Amanda, what do you got?
The only one I had before we talked was Drake by Sawyer Bennett.
Yeah.
Because he
The
is definitely
energies
an asshole.
match. The energies match.
So Drake is a bigger asshole.
He is, but he's
Mhm.
He's
I don't know.
delightful though.
Yeah.
Leah, what do you got? Give me one or two.
Nanny and the Hothead by Krista Sandor. He is such a dick and an asshole, and it takes a lot for him to come back from that.
It does.
And then Catherine Cowles, we talked about Wrecked Palace. He's right up there.
Yeah. Heather, what do you got?
I don't really have. I mean, I think maybe Stone from Sawyer Bennett is a really big asshole at first.
Yeah, he's kind of an
He-
asshole.
It takes a lot to come back to.
Well, those
Yeah.
early books in that whole series. I mean, you get Baden and then you go into Stone and Gage is okay, and then you get to Cohen and you're like, what the hell,
Oh, he's my
lady?
favorite.
It's true.
I
That
know.
that series.
And then
is
Drake.
more-
I mean, they're all assholes,
So many.
but we love them all.
was Sawyer going through something?
She might have been.
Maybe.
Jenny, what do you recommend?
I feel like I've recommended this a lot lately, but Cambria Herbert's Gear Shark series is a racing world. And they kind of deal with the like paparazzi stuff, and so there's a lot of the same feels around that type of thing instead of somebody being an asshole.
And I do think we have an episode September-ish that we're going to give Race Car Rex to. Because J.C. Burton in her sports series has a couple race car drivers that are it's pretty decent books. I had Adrift by Swati M.H. because he's kind of a jerk in the beginning. And it's Single Dad. The Tryst by Lauren Blakely. Again, he's a single dad, but it's also her ex's dad. The Invitation by Vi Keelan. He's mean at that wedding
mean.
reception.
Like he's not an asshole. He is mean.
Yeah, I guess so. He is kind of mean.
But that had some of the same vibes, like,
It does.
But better.
but better. To Hate Adam Connor by Ella Mays.
Yeah.
He's jerky to
The
her.
banter too.
He like tries to get
Like,
her
she-
arrested.
Yeah, but she holds her own.
She
She
does.
does. She's kind of an asshole too.
Yeah.
Dr. Heartless by Jay Salmon. Again, he's kind of, I mean, they have that one night stand and then he's kind of mean to her through
Oh yeah.
the second part of the book.
Dude lies to her about which twin he is too.
Love Me Today by A.L. Jackson. I think if he hadn't had Paisley as his daughter, I don't think that book would have been, or is Paisley the heroine?
As dynamic as it
Whatever the little girl's name is, if he hadn't had her, I think that you would have just hated him through that whole book.
I didn't really love him for most of the book anyway. So.
Who's Your Daddy by Lauren Rowe. He's kind of a jerk. It's a neighbor situation. And The Devil in Blue Jeans by Stacey Kennedy. He's just mean to the heroine because she bought his bar that he sold by choice. But apparently Featherbow is on the moose. Well,
we did forget to mention that Cash says good girl several times.
He does.
She is a good girl for him.
If you like a good girl, then you're going to like that.
Well, and Sebastian York saying good girl in my ears is, just
not
enough.
A terrible day.
No.
It's a hardship, right?
Might flood the basement.
Hannah
put that in a chat this week, and I was like, I just need to find a way to say that in something now.
We need to do a bingo. We need bingo cards.
Ever say that again? Like, ever.
Oh my gosh!
It's Hannah's fault.
I believe it. But
the words came out of your mouth, though. Okay.
Oh my goodness, Rebecca.
Oh, we've gone far off the rails now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's bad.
It wasn't bad.
That was bad.
He's like laughing like she's 12.
All right. Anyway. Anyway.
Okay. So make sure you join us Sunday for our next episode. We'll be here at 9 p.m. Sunday evening. I don't remember what we're talking about, but we're talking
about where we're taking the top 20 of Amazon and giving our own Ricks.
Yeah, that's right. We're hyping up books that we think need more hype. Or if you liked this book, read these books kind of thing. And then next Wednesday, we are back with Fake Love by Jocelyn Soto. It is a fake relationship baseball romance. Amanda, have you read this one already?
No, I was saving it until right before, so I don't forget what happens.
Well, some of them I know I made you pull quotes on, and I didn't know.
No, not that one yet. I waited when I found out we were possibly going to do it for this month. I waited.
Okay. So. I have read it. Caveat: I do work with Jocelyn, and I did work on this book. But yeah, I'm
excited.
I think y'all will like it. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us and talking about When I Had You by S.L. Scott.
It's always a good time.
Yeah, this is fun.
Super fun.
Until next time, everybody.
Happy reading, everybody.